Almost every day they're hauling more boats. These two closest to us came out yesterday, and this guy's cleaning them up and power washing them today. There's not many boats left in the harbor. It's kind of like winter's coming or something. We're going to use these bits of nylon rope to mark the anchor chain at 25-foot intervals. So 25, 50, 75, and then 100 will be both visually different, but also size-wise different. So this is a little bit of a bigger diameter. So it'll be your 100, and then again, 25, 50, 75, and then the chain is 200 feet for the main. So they don't really need a 200-foot mark. And then for our 1/4-inch chain, we're actually just going to need 25, 50, and 75 because the anchor chain is 100. And then for our nylon rode is also 100. And our color scheme is red, white, and blue. And that should be pretty easy for us as Americans to remember, because that's how we say the colors of the flag. Red, white, and blue, and those is the same order for the reef lines on the main. There you go, first reef, second reef, third reef. So trying to keep things consistent and easy, so when it's dark and you're tired, you don't have to think that much. I'm going to clip the ends off of these, and I'm going to pull the core out. Now we're going to get rid of that. And that way this will flatten down. We'll fold it through the anchor chain, sew it on, and then melt the ends. And that should go through the windlass just fine, and it should last a long time and should be really easy to spot. People mark the anchor chain in all different ways, so zip ties are pretty common. We found they last a while, but not super long. Paint is another option. The chain is galvanized, so the paint doesn't really like to stick to the galvanized metal. Maybe down the road when the anchor chain is less galvanized and a little more bare rusty metal, paint might stick around a little bit longer. And they make little plastic clips that clip on or screw on between the anchor chains as well. But I've seen a few different people do it this way, and this seems like a pretty good solution to me. So we'll see how it goes. We won't be able to test it until next year, but we're going to be anchoring in much deeper water as we go explore the South Coast. So this will be a good thing to have. We've got all of the anchor chain laid out nice and neat here. So we have our 200 feet of 3/8 chain for the main and our 100 feet of 1/4-inch chain for the light anchor. And previously it's been marked at the 50-foot mark. So this is the 50 for the 1/4, and there's a couple zip ties up there marking the 3/8. So I'm gonna take these zip ties off. I'm gonna switch it out with the nylon, and we're gonna get it sewn through the links. So this is our end. We'll head down the other end, which is 25 feet away, and that'll be our first one. We'll just work our way around. I've given these one quick hose off and get most of the mud and stuff off before we sew the tags on. Then I'm gonna go down and hose them again. I really wanna
make sure that these are as clean and salt-free as they can be when we put them in the anchor locker for the next, I don't know, 6 months or so. I can't believe we're going to be stationary that long. This is one of those things that we need to be within a couple feet of where we think we are. You know, if you've got 22 or 25 feet of chain out, it really shouldn't make much of a difference. So this doesn't have to be down to the link. I think this is gonna make a pretty big difference. The zip ties have worked for sure, but we've only had them at the 50-foot marks, and sometimes I've wished that we had them a little bit closer. And you don't really know which one you're at, so it's pretty easy to like miss the 50-footer and put out 100, and you know, the chain's running out and you're like, oh, I feel like I should have seen that by now. But now that these are all different colors, you'll be able to know. You don't have to just go by how many have run by. You'll see the blue and you know that you're at 75 feet. I think that's going to be pretty helpful. This is one of those million little tasks that I just haven't gotten around to yet. And I hope to get a lot of them tackled this winter. I'd really love to leave Corner Brook in the spring and feel like Arabella's in tip-top ship shape and ready to go cover some distance and do some cruising. We learned a lot over the last year. And I think we've learned enough to kind of finalize some things and feel confident in doing that. Okay, red, white, blue. The next one down the end will be green. It's a little moist outside, and this line is all nice and dry. So we're gonna do this one in the boat. This is the extension anchor rod for the 45-pound anchor. And the extension rod for the main anchor is on that spool that I mounted up in the forepeak. I'm not gonna bother unspooling that at the moment. And putting length markers in it. It's all nice and cozy in its home, and maybe when we deploy it one of these days, I'll put the lengths in. So let's find, I guess, the middle. This is 100 feet long, so we're gonna mark the 25, the 50, and the 75. And we're going to start with the 50, so that will be white. I'm just going to tuck that in. Yeah, I don't know. That'll work. And I think I'm gonna just stick one right through the line. Make sure that this doesn't want to walk up or down the rope for some reason. We'll keep an eye on it when we use it and see if that wants to chafe where it goes over or not. Actually, it's not too bad. All right. Well, we'll leave it for now. We'll see how it does. So if you haven't guessed yet, we're in the anchor locker. And this is the first time it's ever been cleaned. I've been really happy with it. The chain just piles right up in here really nicely. The divider works. When we got Victoria and we took her apart, decommissioned her, she didn't have a waterproof anchor locker. The anchor just got piled up in the forepeak on top of the forefoot, and it was one of the most rotten places in the whole boat. And it was pretty obvious that it had been just years of dirt and grime and mud and organic material sitting there along with the water. Just rotted the forefoot right away. All of my markers are sewn on. So we got it on our 1/4" chain and our 3/8. I'm really interested to see how long these last and how easy they are to see. And I gotta test them on the windlass. I don't think they'll cause any issue, but I gotta double check. Chain's still a little dirty, but it's all been hosed off. Got most of the salt off it, I think, and it got rained on all night. So it's about time to get it loaded back up in the anchor locker, I think. And down the hatch she goes. I'm putting the main anchor chain back in the locker and getting everything set up to be ready for when we get cruising in the spring again. And this Dyneema line here with the eye in it is super important. So if the windlass were to fail or we were to lose control of it when we were anchoring, there's the possibility that the anchor and the chain will just run away if you don't have the end of the chain tethered to something. So I have this fairly long Dyneema line with an eye splice in it, and it's in the link, a few links up from the end. And the idea is that we're gonna go down below and tie this Dyneema up to the Samson post with a couple wraps and a load releasable knot. And if you were to let all of the chain out, this would pull tight here. It would stop the chain from running out. The chain is still in the windlass, so we would be able to retrieve it a bit if we wanted to or needed to. And that would stop somewhere around there. And then you can pull out the last few links while the chain is still firmly in the windlass, attach on our nylon extension rod, undo this line, and have a smooth transfer out from the chain to the nylon, and always have it on the windlass. So let's go down below and we'll tie that off to the Samson post. Yeah, pull tight about there. Here's that Dyneema line. We're gonna come up and go around the Samson post a few times. So we have some friction wraps around the Samson post. I'm gonna do one hitch in there, and then I'm gonna do another 2 hitches, another hitch on a bite. And this way, when this loads up, these 4 wraps will help absorb a lot of the friction. And then all you have to do is, we'll tie one more overhand in here. And that's our keeper knot. So even with a ton of tension on this, you should be able to undo this keeper knot, pull this tag, this tail end, And then that has one wrap over the top and one wrap underneath. So with a ton of pressure on here, you would be able to just feed that out. That would loosen up, I would come around. And if there wasn't a ton of pressure on it, you could go to here and let it feed out, let it feed around itself, have some more friction, or you can undo this wrap and belay it off the Samson post. So we have a few options that way, and we should be able to untie this kind of no matter what's going on. And if for some reason we can't untie this, we always have the option of cutting it. So we have our line around the Samson post, and that goes down to our chain. And I've put in the first 50 feet, and I'm just gonna wiggle this all around in there and get it to nestle in the bottom. So here's one of our tags. And as you can see, that doesn't cause any issues there. Actually, it's fully free to move around. So I'll be interested to see if they end up getting pinched and if they wear out or how long they end up lasting. And either way, doesn't seem like it matters how it lands. Great, that's awesome. This is the kind of pile that we want to flatten out. So if you just let the anchor chain, ooh, I got to clean up the overhead. If you leave the anchor chain just kind of come down and pile up, it'll just tower up. And then this will fall over and the anchor chain will potentially get knotted up. So just want to go through and get this to settle down a little bit. Make it nice and neat in here. That looks much better. And then when I do that, I just want to make sure that I'm not burying one end of the chain underneath a ton of chain. If it's under a little bit, it doesn't matter much. I mean, there's plenty of force. It'll pull it up and out. Just want to make sure that it's not a super crazy tangle, or there's not a ton of chain on top of itself, pinching itself. In some places, the sheeting I put on is doing quite well. And in other places, it is not. And it's just coming right off. Not up there, though. Well, that's stuck pretty good. And this stuff is stuck to the house, like, really well. I think it's going to be kind of hard to take off in the spring. So it's not that the adhesive strips didn't stick to the boat. It's that they didn't stick to the plastic. and I have a theory. This one's doing okay. Little gap at the bottom, but it's hanging in there. My theory is that when I used the heat gun and shrink wrapped, I ran around the edge and kind of shrunk the edges that were hanging over. And I think that when I did that, it might have messed with the glue. So when I redo these, I'm gonna put on double glue strips, and then I'm just gonna heat the center, and I'm gonna stay away from the edge. And we're gonna see if that makes the difference. I think it will. I hope it will. Because the plastic does make a significant difference with the condensation. And we do have some colder days coming up here soon. I'm gonna do the portholes on this side of the boat, and we'll see how it does. And if it seems to be better, then I'll go around and do the rest of them. But I'm not gonna waste my time doing them all if it's not gonna work. But I do want to do enough of them that we have a reasonable sample size. Oh, I wish they were all that easy. I'm using the same all-purpose cleaner I used last time before I put the adhesive strips on. And the adhesive strips stuck really well to the house, so I don't think that the cleaner that I used or anything was part of the problem. And we're gonna not do the head, and that one's done. Okay. We're really looking forward to this winter here in Newfoundland, and I am also really looking forward to just being stationary for a little while and really being able to dive into some of these projects on Arabella that I've been wanting to get done. The deck could definitely use some love. I got to finish the pitch repairs that I started. She could use some paint and some varnish, all of that maintenance. The stack packs are a really big one. I want to get those made permanently and out of a little bit better fabric. They serve their purpose. There's a few things I want to change, and we wouldn't have been able to figure that out without living with them and using them for a while. So I'm very happy with that decision, but it is time to get them remade before the next cruising season. I'd like to get some rope bags made and some lee cloths, a whole bunch of things. And it's gonna be nice to be here in Corner Brook for a little while. Some of that stuff we'll be able to tackle this winter. Some of that stuff we'll tackle once things warm up in the spring before we take off for the South Coast. But it's gonna be good to just be put for a little while and to really be able to give Arabella some attention. We've been putting her through the paces the last couple of years, which has been good, but it's time to give her some attention and some love. Come on. Fine, be that way. Okay. Oh, I hope this makes a difference. I really, really do.